Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I am Veedotme. We just posted a top 3 brutality builds for Dead Cells that apparently people seem to like. Uh, I had a spreadsheet. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do in the video, and this one was kind of like a long time in the making. And in all honesty, it was really hard to make. So for those who actually enjoyed the video, I'm glad that it came out the way it did. Of course, I want to improve on the concept, so hopefully this one will be a lot better. Top 3 tactics builds. Tactics, as you all know, purple in color. Purple's a pretty nice color. I enjoy the color purple very much. This one, honestly, I probably play the least out of all of them. Or if not the least, then definitely the lowest win rate for me personally. Not to say that there's anything wrong with tactics, but I have a lot of what I call like for fun kind of games with it, and those aren't always the games that win. When I think about top 3 builds, I wanted to make something that's relatively easy to pick up, not a lot of pieces to piece together. That also includes cursed items, legendary items. We want to have basically an item that you'll find at any point during the game. Maybe you have to do a reroll here and there, but even if you do, doesn't involve a lot of chasing. So what we're coming up with today is basically something that I've won a game with or two. Didn't have a lot of pressure. Didn't feel as though I had to be some mechanical monster on the controller or keyboard and mouse if you are was the player, nothing wrong with that. And then also, I want to be able to have fun when I play. Whatever you're doing, if you're watching these videos, just use a build that you have fun with. If you do find success with these, let me know in the comments, and I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get started. Top 3 tactics. Let's go. Alright, so one thing about tactics is that it shares a lot of really good gear with survival. And when I wanted to make this list, I wanted to make sure that I didn't just use the exact same gear on every single color. So the number one offender of that is heavy crossbow. I spent days trying to figure out, do I want heavy crossbow to be the tactics build, or do I want heavy crossbow to be the survival one? And this video is honestly taking me a little while to put together because I could not figure out what that answer was. But finally, I had a run where we played heavy crossbow, and we actually, what I like to call, built for HP tactics. And this is something that when you're playing 0 BC, 1 BC, you can get away with. You can play tactics, you can use a really strong item, and then you'll put stats in all kinds of different colors. And it's fine because the amount of health the monsters have isn't through the roof like it is for 4 BC or 5 BC. So once you start getting into 2 BC, people will tell you, go ahead and start consolidating your stats into one color. Heavy crossbow is no different. Like, you do want to consolidate into purple, but heavy crossbow does a lot of damage, like on its own. And once you start pairing it with other things, the damage is so high, you can basically put points in other colors and be completely okay. I know glass cannon tactics is the premier version of tactics, but it feels pretty nice to be able to get hit by a monster. For those who don't know, when you actually start to get into the higher difficulties, the weapons themselves have scrolls tied to it. So you can get either a purple crossbow, a green crossbow, or a split purple and green crossbow. Let's talk about how do you actually stop from your damage just falling off. So you have the heavy crossbow. You're able to kill really any monster in any biome. It doesn't really matter. As long as you get the pierce on the crossbow, anything gets in front of you, you just press square. Rarely do I have to dodge roll anything. You just rake in the enemies with the first hook, and then chances are it's gonna die. If it's not dying, then that means you need more purple. And that's okay, because that is basically standard dead cells. So what I actually often do when I take this heavy crossbow setup is I'll go support for the DPS bonus, and then I'll go something like necromancy, gastro, extendo heal. So you have support first, you pick up the necromancy, and then by the time you get to a boss, maybe you have, 5 stacks of melees or something. Maybe you press square a little too many times, and now you actually have to heal that up. So the necromancy allows you to get that melees clear, and then you're gaining health if you take hit from the boss once you get into the next biome. You can do that with gastro. So the difference with gastro is you may not actually eat the food as soon as you see it. You may be at 15%, and you know what? You need to kind of go to the next set of monsters, and at that point, maybe you would have gotten all your health back from necromancy. Maybe you got hit really hard on the boss, got the one healthy piece of food early in the biome, never saw the other one. In that case, you heal 30%, maybe that gets you to like 70%, and now you have no health regen. So that's why I like necromancy. I'm sure some math majors out there can do the comparison and figure out how many monsters would it take for you to actually get the healing of a gastro. I don't know, but just the feeling of it, I enjoy having necro because it also removes melees. Now with that support comes the fact that you're using some kind of deployable. So support only works on any item that you would get from the trap section of the shop. For a heavy crossbow, I used to be a big hater of using wolf trap. I think wolf trap is fine, but you have a couple options here. There's wolf trap, which keeps the monster snared. There's crusher, that deals damage to the monsters so long as they're in it. And again, this is mainly for bosses. Everything in the biome you can kind of just kill with the shotgun itself. But for the bosses, the crusher works because the heavy crossbow will keep the boss in place. So what's really special about tactics is being able to run heavy turret. Heavy turret actually gives you 10% increased damage just by being near it. There's actually a lot of turrets that deal additional damage when you're near it, but that involves finding the actual affix for that to happen. So heavy crossbow, that's not necessary. It comes with that right off rip. So when you're actually running heavy crossbow, if you have less than normal tactic stats, it's fine because you're getting bonus damage off the heavy turret, or you're getting bonus damage from wolf trap, because wolf trap is again another skill that increases your damage just for using it. Now, because we're playing tactics, you really want to get as much damage as you can. And the other cool thing about traps is that you can roll traps that release poison clouds around it. So now you start to think about, okay, I have crossbow, the shotgun as we like to call it. I have support, which increases my damage. And then these traps either spew poison around it, or they give me bonus damage while I'm next to it. Some even reduce damage while you're next to it. And then there's crowd control built in with the heavy turret, with the wolf trap, with the crusher. The crossbow is so strong, combined with the two deployables, you are left with two things. You need another mutation to fill the third slot, and then you need a triangle button. So the third mutation, again, we're playing built for health tactics. So that means probably Dead Inside. Now, Necromancy Dead Inside, that's a classic. Every survival player probably uses that every once in a while. But when you're playing it in tactics, when you're running a build like this, the health actually starts to get up there. Because the kind of stats turrets can give you, you actually start surviving hits, and it's not a glass cannon anymore, but you still deal massive damage. So in that instance, I like to say it's actually better than Survival. Survival has Wolf Trap, Survival has Crusher, but what Survival doesn't have is the support mutation, which does all this additional damage. So using that along with Necro Dead Inside, very low chances of death on these bosses. Now the second slot is typically for me dedicated to a shield. Now what shields do is, for the rare case that you don't get your ammo back, you can parry the boss and get all your arrows. You'll never see me using the ammo mutation when I play heavy crossbow. I feel as though you should be doing enough damage that either the elite is gonna die, you'll get your arrows back, or the boss is gonna have a phase change and you'll get your arrows back. If you actually end up pumping all your shots into the monster and you're just standing there with the heavy crossbow, the shoddy, that's when you block. All you do is press triangle, get the one parry. I know it's probably KR advice to say that. Just land the parry and you'll get the arrows back. You should really focus on having as many points in purple as you can, but just don't worry about re-rolling stuff to get purple on every single item you're carrying. It's perfectly acceptable to have, in this case, green items along with pure purple build when you're using the heavy crossbow. Alright, next build. So quick bow. Quick bow is probably one of my favorite weapons in the game. When they buffed it so you can hold down square and they increase the attack speed of it overall, quick bow turned into a monster of an item. If you can get one that pierces, you can literally just sit in the front of a hallway, hold square, and as stuff starts to funnel through to you, they just die along the way. If they aren't dying, there's a good chance that maybe it's a really low level quick bow and you need to upgrade it, or you may need a mutation to go along with it. And that's half of what makes tactics so strong, is being able to use mutations that deal additional damage. So with quick bow, you want to be able to kill everything in the biome. All you need for that is a simple Tranquilo or a Hunter's Instinct, or even Parting Gift. Parting Gift got some buffs. As soon as they did the bug fix to it, it got a range buff and a damage buff. That obviously doesn't do anything for bosses, but if you find that clearing biomes is the issue, Parting Gift definitely helps out with that. If that's no issue, then you're definitely able to use either Support or Tranquilo. That basically does the same thing as it does for the heavy crossbow. You can take a quick bow with any of your turrets, like the flamethrower, like the barnacle, if you like that a lot, and then you just melt enemies because you're using support, and the damage is just so high. Of course, the quick bow, you are probably getting into glass cannon territory, so it's probably correct to run disengagement here. If you take something like necromancy, it's going to be a lot of health that you have to recover if you take a hit during a boss. So in this case, you're probably better to lean towards the gastro if you want some healing. Otherwise, the only other thing you could take is really alienation. I know a lot of people are kind of apprehensive about alienation. It's actually buffed in version 1.5, so I do definitely want people to use alienation a little more than you may have been doing in the past. But alienation is almost a 100% heal on every curse that you take. So when you're running a quick bow that can just kill things down the hallway, alienation definitely starts to add up. 15 monsters when you're running something like Tranquilo or something like Parting Gift feels pretty good. So definitely a lot of healing that should be part of your rotation. So with quick bow, you have a couple of options. If you're going support, then you can use turrets and basically play this as far back as you like. But don't forget, because the quick bow has an innate crit condition, you can actually run Instinto, that's Instinct of the Master of Arms, in this build. You really have to decide which mutations you value the most and kind of build your skill set towards that. So Instinct is really good if you're running something like Lacerating Aura, if you're running something like Knife Dance. You could even use Instinct if you're running something like Corrupted Power and Owls, because being able to activate those more often just helps melt monsters a little faster than you were before. As far as which build I think I prefer, I would say it really boils down to RNG at that point. If I get turrets, let's say I get a wolf trap that has poison cloud around it and deals 100% damage to poison target, I'm probably going support. If I get the owl that pierces enemies, I'm probably getting Hunter's Instinct and then dropping that for Instincto once I get a few more stats. If I just want to clear biomes, if I'm feeling like, my biome clears are a little lacking, then that's when I'm probably picking up Tranquilo or Parting Gift. The end result is really just making sure you can kill the boss. All of those are completely valid for boss killing, so just take whatever skill was the most powerful that you can find, and then use the mutation set that lets you kill a boss. And the last tactics build I wanted to talk about, and again, this is really classic tactics. This is the kind of tactics that basically anyone would use. It's your montage reel. You go on Reddit, you'll probably find something like this. And that's really the glass cannon build. So to me, the ultimate glass cannon for tactics is probably Double Owl. That's the build that you're punished the most for getting hit, aside from just using a curse sword. So why I say the build is literally Double Owl, it's essentially that you don't really care what your melee or ranged weapon is, you're really just the owl's keeper at that point. You've seen videos of, for example, Double Owl against the Giant, Double Owl against Timekeeper, Double Owl against Hand of the King. It's all perfectly good builds. It's really all the owl doing all the work. So when you're just basically a pleb at that point, when you're the NPC and the owls are the main characters, you really shouldn't do anything to put yourself in any danger. So typically you won't see me using a melee weapon. You may see me using a shield, but chances are I'm grabbing throwing knives, I'm grabbing Hokuto bow. It's really a long range artillery build where you're just the owl's keeper. Now, what owls really excel in is bonus damage to certain dots. So you can get owls that deal bonus damage to burning, bonus damage to poison, and bonus damage to bleed. You have options. You can do all of that with your square or your triangle button. You can run double kunai, that's your bleeding source. You can also get a kunai that does poison on bleeding. Again, that's probably drawing Exodia. We don't really want to have a top 3 build rely on you getting the master hand that just completely destroys every monster. Other weapons that can apply dots are things like the Alchemic Carbine. You can get a Hokuto bow, combine that with a carbine, and then you have a really strong dot where you don't have to walk up to the monster anymore. You can just stand back, let the owls do all the work. I would say out of the weapons that you have available to stay at range, and that's stuff like marksman bow, things like javelin, I would say you're probably best going with either the double kunai, the alchemic carbine, and the Hokuto, or some kind of mix of the 3. And because you're sitting at such long ranges, because you're turning into an artillery cannon at that point, I feel like it's probably best that you run Tranquilo. There's no crit happening. There's no support. So since Owl doesn't count as a turret, support doesn't work with it. And then Parting Gift, probably unnecessary. The owls are probably going to kill whatever it is. As long as you can get the bleeding or the poison on the target, chances are the owl can kill it. So with Tranquilo, you can get that damage before you even get up to the monster, before the monster can even react to it. And that feels honestly a lot better than going with any of the other tactics mutations. Of course, you do have 2 other mutation slots to fill. Again, Glass Cannon, so you're probably taking Disengagement. After Disengagement, it really boils down to personal preference. A lot of people like to take the Masochism because in some cases, you really don't want a spike to throw away your Disengagement. Disengagement should only be for monsters, and like stepping into spikes is the last thing you want to pop it. For those who don't know, Masochism also works on some bosses. So it'll work on the Giant's crystals, and it'll also work on all of the spikes in, for example, Hand the King's Pit or Conjunctivious Wall. So there's a lot of use scenarios, including challenge rifts, where Masochism allows you to not just instantly pop your Disengagement. If you don't really like using Masochism, if you believe that the chances of you actually being hit by spikes is fairly low, then there's really not much else to get your health back in this kind of build. Chances are you're probably going to want to use either Extendo Heal or Emergency Triage. Those are really just emergency buttons to get your health back up. Honestly, because this is a glass cannon, there's no sense in using something like Dead Inside. You may as well consider your health 2, where you get hit once, you activate your Disengage and your 1-hit protection, and then you have 1 more hit until you die. So use the health pot, get as much of your health back as you can before you just get hit again. Of course, this is glass cannon, so that means the success rate is probably a little lower than the other ones, but compared to other items, this is kind of a really fun build to me. If you do get hit, it's a really good way to learn how to get better, is when you're playing glass cannon tactics. You'll definitely know how to dodge all of the Giant's attacks when you realize that, hey, I don't deal damage if I get hit. So I need to be on my best behavior and just let the owls and the poison do its job. Of course, if you are playing on PC, it is a rip to the double owl build. I wouldn't say that owls are completely nerfed at this point because you're not using 2. It's 100% possible to still win games with 1 owl. Maybe you pair it with something like a Barnacle. Maybe you pair it with something like a Crossbow-matic. Really just anything that can deal damage at any range without you having to stand right on top of it. That way the owl can still do its job, and you just throw out all the damage you can with Hokuto, Throwing Knife, and Alchemic Carbine. Alright, so that's it. 3 builds, tactics. We got one with health. We got one that's kind of an intermediate. You just kind of play around your turrets and hopefully you're doing well. And then another one that is your classic glass cannon. I know there's no melee builds in here. I do like things like Phaser Assassin Blade, or things like Hokuto with the Sadist Stiletto. Sometimes I'll even play Tentacle every now and then. But when we want to talk about the best case scenario to actually win a game, I don't know if those are the best bet. I am a big fan of Shrapnel Axe. I've won games with it, but in the end, these 3 items made the cut. So again, if you like tactics, if you have a tactics build that I didn't cover, if you don't even like some of the items that I cover, you're more than happy to post what you like in the comments below. Again, this is really my first time doing these kind of videos, exclusive YouTube content. I really enjoy doing these kind of things, so I hope you all enjoy it as well. If you want to see survival, start loading up the like, start loading up the subscribe button, because I really want to put in a survival top 3. I just need to know that you all want to see it just as much. Other than that, thank you for viewing the video, and can't wait for the next one. Bye everyone.